Time now for Clarion Connection with Ron Wilshire. Ron.
Brenda has worked with minority affairs over the years, and she helped lead a group of people to hold the first community breakfast for Martin Luther King this past week. And we wanted to talk a little bit about the breakfast and knowing Brenda, one day won't be enough for this.
No, one day is not enough. The breakfast on Monday morning was exciting, exhilarating, magnificent, and a success. We had more than 80 people showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning for breakfast and to hear an outstanding speaker who was Mr. Mel Witherspoon from the Erie area, works for the Auditor General and is also a city councilman in Erie, and is a product of the civil rights movement led by Dr. King, in that he was a student at Gannon in the 60s, as well as he's the first black president of the Rotary Club in Erie.
And he serves on city council.
And he currently serving on city council. It's his third term serving on city council in Erie.
He just brought a refreshing voice to the speaking duties of the breakfast, talking obviously about Martin Luther King's famous speech and that, but how in practical terms it has played out in what he's seen in Erie, and even his I believe his granddaughter attends Clarion now.
His granddaughter is a sophomore at Clarion. One of his statements was that he wanted his children and his grandchildren to get the best education that they could get so that they could be successful. And he wasn't controversial, but he did get the crowd involved on Monday morning and said some things that would cause people to think about where they are in life and what they're doing and if they're making a difference in their communities.
And he seemed to be all about getting people involved. I know it almost seemed like a stereotype, but he was involved in getting a basketball program, again, starting at the Erie, but it was getting everyone involved in it. It's not just about the points.
Well, one of the things that he said was it's important to be involved in your community, and so he has started, I believe, something called the Spoon Foundation or the Spoon Community Action, and it gets young people in the inner city in Erie, because believe it or not, there's an inner city everywhere you go, and he has that program going where they get the young people involved and to keep them out of crime and to keep them out of trouble. So, and that's what's really important. I think as an educator, that would be one of my strong points, that I'm always trying to get young people involved in some kind of activity so that they don't have idle time on their hand.
Yeah, too much time on their hands creates too many problems, and that works on any race.
That works on any race in any community.
Right, so he's been active in that. And the whole breakfast, I think, had a theme of the legacy of Martin Luther King.
Yes, that was the legacy, a new generation, the legacy of King, a new generation. So many young people now, you have to teach them about King. It's not, for me, King was a daily thing. But now you have to teach it to them, and considering who publishes the books, and I don't need to get political here or any radical
not
anything.
You.
But considering who publishes the books, what's in the books is very small and could be slanted because of the author or the publisher. So King, Malcolm X, any of the civil rights leaders or the people who wanted to make a change, you have to teach it to them now.
But Martin Luther King, more than anyone, seemed to be more about nonviolence.
Yes, Martin Luther King was more about nonviolence.
Some of the things he talked about would, you would think would almost be conservative today. whereas society has moved on to everyone has a big mouth now. But he had a rather, in some ways, a calming, gentle message.
Well, considering that he took the style of Mahatma Gandhi, and I may be mispronouncing that, but he wanted the nonviolent. If you didn't resist, or if you took the stance of, I'm going to sit here until you recognize me, without being violent, without having a big mouth like I do, without causing an uproar, that people would have to accept you, or would be more inclined to accept what you said, because the assumption would be that you weren't coming in to tear things up, but only wanting to be a part.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, how do you think King's dream is today?
The one thing we have going for us right now is the President of the United States of America. Surely he could not be president without King's legacy, without the things that King fought, especially the Voting Rights Act. Without the Voting Rights Act, the way Mr. Obama was elected President of the United States would not have happened without King's insistence, King's marching, King's work. And then you have to give it to President Lyndon Johnson for passing the Voting Rights Act. So, I mean, the Hispanics, the young people, the blacks, I think there's some statements being made now that the voting bloc is now a majority. And that's certainly what got the young people, Hispanics, blacks, Native Americans, Asians are the ones who voted in large block numbers to get Mr. Obama in.
And from what I was reading, a lot of this campaign was keyed to that in terms of picking out the people to concentrate on campaigning. Yeah. And a lot of it was the technical, the administrative parts of it. And it's kind of interesting that he also probably won with a better managed business-like approach in terms of going after the people that were likely to vote for him.
That is exactly what I read and what I've seen, and certainly they talk about how he's able to raise money for the party and for his election, and it all has to do with who he's reaching out to. Plus, he will take $5, $10, where others want you to give massive amounts to give. Well, $5 and $10 adds up to massive amounts. So, and then the social media stuff that his campaign workers are doing. I mean, whoever heard of the President of the United States tweeting while he's being inaugurated, or while, right after he gives his speech, or that kind of stuff. So I don't even tweet, but and I was looking last night at some of the follow-up, and they were showing the four of them, the two young girls and him and his wife, watching the parade, and they were all taking breaks on their cell phones, texting or whatever they were doing. So, we have a modern what's happening president that has able to to bring together the masses for a cause. Now, I would hope that those of us who are at the grassroots level will work to get some of his plan passed, so that America doesn't fall further and further behind. We're falling further behind in education, all of those things, because people have taken such a conservative attitude and so busy fighting each other till we can't move forward.
Yeah, it makes it hard. Now, the Martin Luther King breakfast that was held this Monday was held on his actual birthday, but Clarion University isn't in session, so there weren't any students, or there weren't many faculty or other people there. So that the attendance at the breakfast might have been much larger. But what are you going to do for all these people that weren't here?
Well, on January 31st, we will be having the 18th or the 17th. It will be the 17th annual Martin Luther King holiday program. We've been doing it for 17 years. When we were in school, we had it on the day. Now that we are not in school until after the holiday, we have set it the first week of school. And so Thursday, January 31st at 6 p.m. in the Gilmore Multi-Purpose Room, we will be having another King celebration to pull in all the students, faculty, staff, and anyone. It is open to the public, anyone else who wants to come in, but it's particularly geared towards students so that they will be able to celebrate the King holiday. And this happens around the state system because the schools are not in. Around the state systems this week, many people will be having a King celebration.
Well, tell me, since you are the Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs, why was the semester break so long this year?
That question you would need to ask at the state system office. The mandate was sent down as to when the semester started and when the semester ended, and we had to comply with that and do whatever we needed to do between January 28th and May 15th.
Well, that sounds like a very political answer for you, the very PC-oriented answer.
It is. That's the only answer. I can tell you whether or not I'm allowed to. I can tell you that the administration at Clarion University did send in a rebuttal or a request to ask for it not to start, because we have a group of students who've been on campus since December 26th, and the kids have been playing basketball and wrestling, and with no students to support them. So I have made sure that I went to the basketball games so that there would be someone there to support those young people. And we've had to house them and feed them without the support of the other student body. And it is, I will speak for Brenda Dede. 6 weeks is too long for students to be out of school. They could have come back to school the second week in January, as far as I'm concerned. Jokingly, someone said just Friday or so that, oh my goodness, we'll have to teach them how to read again when they come back after 6 weeks. 6 weeks is a long time.
Yeah, it is.
It's a long time, and surely none of us agreed that this was the ideal break.
Right. Mm-hmm. Some things are out of your control.
And this was one.
This was one of them.
But I want to get back to the January 31st program. The keynote speaker for the January 31st program will be the Reverend Laura Adams King, who is the superintendent of the Farrell Area School District and the pastor of the Erie Street Church of God in Franklin, PA. Reverend King is well known in the area for education and for working with young people and also working in the community.
You're listening to Clarion Connection with Ron Wilshire and Brenda Dede. We're going to take a short break here before we come right back. Welcome back to Clarion Connection. I'm Ron Wilshire, and my guest today is Brenda Dede, and we're talking about the various Martin Luther King celebrations Clarion University and the Clarion University community, general community, have had for Dr. King, including a breakfast on Martin Luther King's birthday and some planned events to reach the students and faculty when they return for the start of the second semester in January. Brenda, is there anything else you'd like to add to the January 31st program?
Well, the January 31st program is we partnered with the Chamber to bring this program for the last several years as we get money from the Clarion Foundation, because it's a community project, and so we are partnering with the Chamber. So Tracy Becker will be with us to bring greetings that morning. The Lift Every Voice Gospel Choir will be singing. We will have a recitation of the King Dream, since this is the 50th anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech, so we will be presenting that also. And maybe one of the highlights is that we will have a soul food meal. It's 6 o'clock dinner, so we'll have fried chicken, collard greens, red beans and rice, cornbread, sweet potato pie. I hope that it will get somebody ready to come to eat. But please come to the program first. And this has been a tradition since we started this program 17 years ago, that we would serve the soul food dinner.
Well, I understand Chartwell's is making the bulk of it, but I also hear that there's a mystery chef for some of the food.
There is a mystery chef for some of the food. Someone who is a Southern person will be making the collard greens and the red beans. That person has done the collard greens and the red beans for a number of years, and people keep asking for it, even though we're in Clarion, Pennsylvania. So that mystery chef will be bringing the collard greens and the red beans.
And the mystery chef currently occasionally appears on radio shows?
The mystery chef currently appears on radio shows and has a full-time job in education.
Huh. Well, chefs are everywhere now. They all have their TV shows, and maybe we'll see
and some people have a few hidden talents.
Well, everyone can judge that. Now, is there any charge for this?
There is no charge. How I have to say that the attendance has been growing every year, so we don't know how we're going to have to start finding other ways to fund the program, but there is no charge for this meal and this outstanding program that we have put together.
So you don't have to make any reservations? Or
You don't have to make reservations. Just show up. Last year, good thing, bad thing, we programmed for 150. We had to put more tables down for more people. We had about 200 people there last year, which is a good thing, bad thing. We didn't run out of food, though.
Oh, great. Well, I see on your little flyer that you have for the New Generation of Equality on January 31st, you also have poetry, music, and prizes. You want to talk a little bit about those?
Well, poetry, we will have students presenting original as well as published poetry. Again, the Lift Every Voice Gospel Choir will be singing. Two young ladies will be doing musical mime presentations and door prizes, which is another unique thing about this program. Ever since we started, we do give a number of door prizes, and those door prizes generally center around Black history, Dr. King, the holiday celebration, those kinds of things. I believe we even might have some calendars with the President of the United States on it, or some memorabilia from the inauguration of the President of the United States, the 44th President of the United States of America. And as you can tell, I'm very proud of that, because I am a product of the 50s, 60s segregated South, and this is something that I never expected to see in my lifetime. So I'm very, very proud that we do have a competent, well-qualified, educated, handsome President of the United States of America.
So you kind of like him?
I kind of like him.
Okay. Well, you've also taken a...
And I usually try not to show my political partisanship, but I have to show it at this point.
Right. Well, you've kind of taken the political track in your life, too. You're sort of like Mel, elected member of the local borough council. How has that political career been?
Exciting and interesting. Again, something I never thought that would happen, because, as you know, I'm from Houston, 4 million people, and so I'm just a small pea in a big pot there. But coming to Clarion, I was able to pull together enough votes to get on the borough council, and it's been interesting and exciting. I have always fashioned myself or thought of myself as a helper and someone who was willing and wanting to do things for other people. And being on the council, that's how I see that I'm helping the community at large, not just, in my little corner of the world, but helping everybody in the community.
Well, like the president and ambitions and things you want to do you find yourself brought down to reality with the practical constraints facing you in the job?
Yes, there are times when you have to compromise, or you have to look at the other viewpoint of somebody else, or the vote doesn't turn out the way that you thought it should. So then you have to go back and re-strategize or come up with another game plan to see, or maybe even reevaluate the thought process to see what I was thinking about or what the other person was thinking about, and maybe we can come up with a compromise if we didn't get what was initially set out to be done.
A lot of people look at politics and say, what were they thinking? So it's good to see that people from both sides think that occasionally.
Well, Ron, you have to remember, somebody with initials R.W. talked me into running for the position because my thing was just go vote, because this is what I will always say. And that's another thing about the program on the 31st. We will have voter registration cards available, because I am a proponent of you need to register to vote and you need to vote. There were people who died for you to get that right. So my thing always was to go vote, read who the candidates are, vote for the most qualified person and the person who you thought would be the most helpful in the office that they're being elected for. But somebody with initials R.W. came to me and said, there are openings on the council. You should run. And the person that I am, I can never say no.
Right. Well, you certainly bring a different light to council. And,
oh, yes, I do. I don't apologize for anything that has happened thus far in terms of my speaking out and my making comments and my saying where we are and what we should be doing. I generally try to research and make sure that the points I bring up are valid and that they are good for the community.
And you're doing this action just based on your own thoughts and opinions. You're not getting any secret messages from Barack?
Not yet.
Not yet. And anything else on the plan, getting back on target on the Martin Luther King celebration?
Well, I would just encourage everybody to come out on Thursday, January 31st. To the program. Again, we think we put together a wonderful program for you. The food will be delicious. Chartwells will be doing their thing, and the secret chef will be doing their thing. January 31st, 6 p.m., Gimel Multi-Purpose Room.
A lot of people don't realize it, but there is a committee behind us, including the chamber and community relations group.
Yes. This program is put together by, we have a local NAACP chapter on campus, the chamber, the foundation, College of Business Administration, the Martin Luther King committee on campus, and the provost office. And there are several of the Minority Student Services, the Black Student Union, the African American Caucus. All these groups come together to put this program on. And
this year it seemed to be more of an organized effort, in terms of with the breakfast and things.
Yeah, the provost reminded me, he had lived in the South, that, the tradition was to have a Martin Luther King breakfast, and we had not looked at that before because the students weren't here. So this year we put together that program on Monday, the breakfast, some of the same people that we just talked about, as well as Kiwanis and the ministerium in town and United Way, and of course we can't forget Dan Parker at the library. We came together and put together the program, and we also had participation from the Knox Ministerium. And so far, the comment is that we want to do that bigger and better next year. If you let me, we keep on, we'll be having a parade on Martin Luther King holiday, which is what happens in larger cities, and you have speaking contests, and you have parade and breakfasts and all kinds of things. So if given money, time, and people to work, who knows, we may be having a parade in Clarion.
Maybe get some carnival rides and the carny food there.
No, that's not part of Martin Luther King. It's work. It's a day on, not a day off. So after you have the parades and things, we would then go and clean up the highway, or help somebody paint their house, or clean yards, or shovel snow in this instance.
Don't do that in the South, right?
No.
Well, the day on, day off principle is an important one, because too often, let's face it, these kinds of holidays, whether it's President's Day or what, become a day off, and it's more for sales or lounging around.
Right. Or people taking in too much alcohol, and bad things then really do happen with guns and alcohol. So I would think we want to build up a day on, not a day off, and so we'll use the time to do positive things in the community. And
what are some of the positive things that are being done in the community regarding race relations and that type of thing?
Well, I would think that the many different committees that we have going on, and just the people working together, we have our Kiwanis and Rotary and the ministeriums all, with the breakfast, we had a food drive. With the program on the 31st, we would encourage people to bring a canned good to give to the local food pantry. That is a serious need in this community, and so the people working together, and like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that people seeing us together, people knowing that we are friends, people knowing that you have encouraged me to do something, I've encouraged you to do something, helps with race relations in this community.
Well, thank you for joining us today on Clarion Connection. Brenda Dede, the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at Clarion University and proponent of Martin Luther King Day. Remember, it was not a day off, it was a day on.